What did it take to bring an autonomous robotic character to life at the Disney parks? Stay tuned for my interview with Walt Disney Imagineer Moritz Baecher about how his team brought Olaf to life in a matter of months. Welcome aboard Imagination Skyway, your guided tour through the worlds of Disney and Imagineering. I'm your host, Matthew Kroll, and it's my job to explore the stories and places we love and the people who bring them to life. Today's episode consists of two parts. First, you'll get to hear my interview with Moritz Baecher, Lab Director on the Research and Development Team for Walt Disney Imagineering. In our discussion, Moritz and I discuss his work on Olaf for the World of Frozen, which is an autonomous robotic character brought to life in partnership with Walt Disney Animation Studios, and an open-source, extensible physics engine called Newton, which was developed by NVIDIA, Google DeepMind, and Disney Research to advance robotic learning and development. Whether you're interested in technology, Imagineering, or the future, it's a conversation you will not want to miss. And for you audiophiles out there, just a heads up that you might notice the interview sounds cleaned up. Due to the nature of the original recording, I had to implement a high degree of voice isolation and compression to enhance your listening experience. After the interview, stay tuned for my conversation with James Grosh from Guide to WDW as we discuss his trip to Disneyland Paris to see the Olaf figure up close and to experience the world of Frozen before its official opening day at Disney Adventure World later this month. As you fasten your seatbelt, I encourage you to take out your mobile devices and search for Imagination Skyway on your favorite social media app. Better yet, if you're looking for ad-free episodes, bonus content, or the ability to comment directly on the podcast, head to patreon.com/imaginationskyway, where you can sign up for a free account or a premium subscription. And if this episode leaves you yearning for a trip to Disney or any other destination, reach out to our partners and sponsors at KMV Travel, voted the top travel agency in Orlando in 2025. To get started, visit kmvtravel.com/skyway. As we begin our journey, please remain seated, keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times, and enjoy your journey aboard Imagination Skyway. So, Moritz, I'd love to start with you talking a little more about your role on this project and at Disney Research at Walt Disney Imagineering.
Yeah, so I lead a team in Zurich. So I'm based in Zurich. I've actually studied in the US and then moved back to Switzerland. And so we are a team of 11, and we actually have shared PhD students as well with the local university. That's just for scale that you understand a bit the team size. And so, we've been in the past few years focusing on robotics or entertainment robotics. We've done different projects before, but now we focus more. And so we built the hardware and also the smart software that brings characters like Olaf to life. And so it's this small team that can do the technology side of things, right? So we get to work with amazing artists that are based in California at the best-in-class, but we have a really good team together to build the mechanical or mechatronics design, and then getting the systems to really follow the artist, provide emotion. And also, we create the artistic interface to these new technologies like reinforcement learning that we used to get these robots to work.
Which is incredible. It's amazing what a small team can accomplish. I would love to go back to the origins for this idea. How far back do you remember talking about this Olaf nearly fully autonomous figure roaming around a Disney park?
I mean, so we have discussions, and it's also the larger organization. We had discussions what characters to build, which character to build next. Olaf came up, or was high on everyone's priority list when it comes to our global parks. So they wanted to see Olaf at its authentic scale. And then was months ago, not years ago, when we started discussing the character, and it took us months to build it afterwards. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and that's impressive. I was expecting you to say maybe 5 years ago. When you think about projects, it could sometimes take several years to bring to life. The fact that it was months is amazing. What sort of challenges or problems did you need to solve in order to specifically move from the last generation that I think we've seen, unless I'm mistaken, at Disney parks, are the BDX droids, which are right now we're looking at a next generation type of figure. So what were the challenges your team needed to overcome to get to that next level?
Excellent question. So the BDX droids, they're a robotic character. So it was a good starting point to innovate on the technology side to build such characters quickly. But it had 2 legs and a 4 degree of freedom, has. But you just think about the mechatronics design. And so the innovation there was learning in combination with simulation and really at scale, train policies with an artistic interface. And so that you artistically, as a creative, can express yourself on a free roaming character. So that was the key innovation. And we did that a few years ago before people worked in humanoids or humanoids bipedal systems actually to do really expressive motion. So we were at the forefront of innovation, not just in entertainment robotics, but in robotics in general when it comes to bipedal systems. But then reinforcement learning is the key technology, the fundamental technology for Olaf. But Olaf is an animated character. We didn't, for BDX, we started with the mechanical design. We created something that at that scale worked well. Olaf, it's a given character with a very clearly defined scale, with very, very clearly defined proportions. And an animated character usually has very over proportional, body parts. Like the head was gigantic, right? So these led to challenges on the software side to control this character. And so we started to innovate on mechatronics design. For example, we have asymmetric legs. So the knees bend actually in opposite directions to really get these 2 snowballs to do the walking so smoothly, right? And maximize the workspace. We use so-called spherical linkages to do the arm motion while we can hide the actuators in the body. And then we have this gigantic head, where we actually worked with the envelope. We didn't change anything there. We didn't take any shortcuts. We tried to stay as close as possible to the character that you see in the movie. And so, on the technical side for reinforcement learning, so we had basically challenges on actuators overheating. So because you have this large head, and we had 3 actuators that we needed to fit in the scene. And so they started to overheat for certain animations. And so then we basically started to simulate what happens in an actuator. We started to simulate basically heat, the temperature development, the thermal dynamics of an actuator. And then we are able to basically keep, without making, only making subtle changes to the animation or motion, we are able to prevent these characters from overheating. And so Olaf literally learned in simulation to not melt, which is kind of fun. And we also, when we first tried, basically the process that we applied to BDX droids for walking, we heard Olaf walking. So we heard the steps. And this is not believable. And you can't hear a snow man walking. And so we then worked on something we call noise or impact reduction. And so without seeing a difference, we were able to reduce the impact noise very significantly and make this more believable. So that's also part of that reinforcement learning technology that we can now apply to any character in the future. And that actually not only helps to prevent steps that we can hear, it also prevents or mitigates wear. So lots of robots, if they have large impacts, they break or the actuators wear off, as they can actually reduce the wear on these robots as well, which is a very nice side effect.
Yeah, it's that level of commitment to storytelling that makes Disney creations like these exceptional. And I imagine that in order to bring Olaf to life in true form, there's the technical side you just described, but then there's also the ties to what we see from Olaf in films and shorts. So was there a strong partnership with Walt Disney Animation Studios, or was it a matter of just looking at reviewing the films and watching them again and taking notes on what you noticed about him?
It was crucial to get to work with the studio directly. So we got to work with the best animators that animated Olaf for the movies or the Olaf episodes also. So best in class artists, and their feedback actually on a daily basis was incredibly important to get this Olaf robotic character to be as expressive and believe. So absolutely, working across our business segments, working with studios directly, that's key. Yes.
Wonderful to hear. I believe there's also, if I'm not mistaken, a partnership with NVIDIA and using especially their using Newton on this next generation figure. Can you tell me a little bit more about that partnership and how that helped to bring this next generation figure to life?
Yeah, excellent question. So the Newton framework, we actually have quite a bit of expertise on the Disney research side. We have worked on simulation for a decade. And so we worked on simulation representations of our animatronic figures. And so the A1000 is our best humanoid character when it comes to the animatronic side of things. And so these, a standard animatronic has over 150 moving bodies. If you don't account for fingers, right, and the head. So this is an insane number of moving objects or bodies. And no one builds at that complexity level. So if you think about characters, we usually have to place actuators where there is space. I usually do that inside of a body and remote actuate. So we use a lot of so-called linkages. So what's important is these are generic mechanisms. The robots that we build at the Walt Disney Company. They're highly complex mechanical systems, but we don't leave as a stone unturned to basically get to that authentic character that you really believe this is the character and not a robotic or mechanical system. And so, we got to partner with NVIDIA and also DeepMind. They have their own expertise. So, for example, DeepMind has pretty fast simulation is called Machoke solver. That's also good for contact handling. And NVIDIA obviously is a key innovator in the GPS separation the simulation representations, and we got the best talent globally when it comes to simulation in one team with this collaboration. And on the DA side, we had the simulators on the CPU side, not on the GPU. And Metronics, we didn't have contact. Yeah, added contact now. And so the partnership allowed DA Research to work on the Camino solver. And so that's news. This is now released for the first time. We talk about this at GTC. And this simulator enables you to train a so-called control policy, controls Olaf, all in one angle. So Olaf is quite a complex mechanical system because he used linkages in the head for the eyes, for example, the eyebrows, and those for the mouth. And we have these spherical linkages for the two arms, and existing simulators were not able to simulate this as easily, and especially not in the reinforcement learning context. And so with Camino, the simulator that we contributed to Newton, that is part now of the open source framework, enables us to bring characters like an Olaf to life and really train these policies from scratch. So something that was not possible. So it's an amazing collaboration, best in class, working together to build something, not just for ourselves, for the companies, right? We are stronger together, but we don't keep that closed. we share this so that anyone out there can use the simulators in the future. And so we believe it unlocks basically a huge potential because mechanical engineers can just build what they think is most efficient. And so we liberate mechanical engineers to make good decisions and not having to design something that works well in software, which was the case before.
I love that news. I love that concept, and it's certainly going to propel this industry forward. Speaking of sharing, not just sharing the technology and the software involved, but also sharing the character himself. I remember seeing Olaf for the first time in a video, and it was incredibly convincing. And I just know that the experience is even more powerful in person. So whether it was your personal memory seeing the completed figure the first time, or the experience sharing that with the public or others outside your team, do you remember that experience, and how did you feel when that moment came to life?
We obviously have to develop in a closed lab, right? And so we have many moments where, for example, we just built the 2 legs first. And we do lots of prototyping and simulation. And when I, or the team, it's always a team effort, right? Where everyone has a unique expertise. And we saw these legs really doing a walking cycle that gets close, where basically looks like the animated character is walking. That was an amazing moment for the team. But that happens basically behind closed doors in a lab environment. So we celebrate those moments, obviously, and we live for those moments. Seeing Olaf legs doing an Olaf motion in the physical role, that is an amazing one. But then, for BDX and also Olaf, we were basically at the park when, at least the press for Olaf got to see Olaf for the first time. And so I can tell you how important those ones are for the team. And, seeing that firsthand is just incredible. And the guest response is what we live for. We build technology to impress our guests and bring these characters to life. Seeing that in the park is an amazing moment for the team. So, good memories there.
Yeah, it honestly made me want to book a flight to Paris right away just to check out, take my girls to see Olaf as well, because they're young and huge fans of Frozen. So it makes us want to take that trip and to go out there. My last question for you, Moritz, is obviously we're, paving the way here for the future. So without giving away perhaps what's behind closed doors right now, how are you thinking about the future, the next step? What's on your short list for capabilities you'd love to see with that next generation figure that'll come to life?
Excellent question. We definitely work on more autonomous solutions, and these autonomous solutions are agnostic to the characters that we're building. So, for example, we'll talk GTC about autonomy when it comes to navigation in the context of the BX droids. So they literally learns to walk around in environments. You can, if you step in their way, they walk around you, and they do this in character. So we have lots of these nuggets, these capabilities, and we start to really truly implement them or bring them to our characters. So Olaf for now will stay remote operated. So autonomy is a huge opportunity for us to truly bring these characters to life with their personality and so on. Also still challenges to resolve, obviously, but it's the right time to be able to innovate quite a bit on that front. And so we always strive also to increase the count of characters that we can physically represent. So we will continue to innovate on the simulation side to increase that count with Camino, which by the way is a Star Wars reference because the Camino inhabitants, they are experts in cloning. We clone lots of robots in simulation. So that's that explains the name. So we will, now we can train policies for an Olaf character as a whole system, very complex mechanical systems. do we want to bring all captives to life that we have at the Walt Disney Company? And as simulation and reinforcement learning continues to be areas that we are going to invest in.
Well, I'm very excited to see what's next. And right now, excited, like I said, to see Olaf in person someday as well. But Moritz, thanks so much for taking the time and for all your work on this project. It's very much appreciated.
Thanks for the amazing questions.
So if you've been following the news, in about a week from now, on March 29th, World of Frozen is officially opening at what is going to soon be called Disney Adventure World at Disneyland Paris. If you have never visited Disneyland Paris before, and if you're a fan of the Frozen franchise, this is just one of the many reasons to take this trip. And while I have plans, hopefully, to visit Disneyland Paris within the next year, I did not get the chance to go, and I'm not going to be going for the opening, but I wanted to bring a guest on to the podcast who not only got to go for the opening, but got to go before the opening and got to experience some incredible attractions and exciting events at the World of Frozen press event. So I wanted to welcome first-time guest to the show, James from Guide to WDW. James, welcome to the show.
Hi, Matthew. Happy to be aboard the Skyway.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you aboard. No one has said it that way before, but you get the connection to Disney attractions.
Oh yeah, I miss the Skyway. I miss that.
I am not surprised because I'm gonna plug you real quick. Like, I love following your content. You put together such incredible content on social media. It's captivating. It's informative. You're definitely like my type of people. Like, it just, I love the Imagineering, the deep dives, the history, the way you present the information. So, I'm plugging you here at the beginning, just as a genuine fan. I hope a lot of people check out your work, on socials.
Matthew, that's very kind of you to say, and I definitely loved connecting with another like true Disney fan and fan of Imagineering and going deeper into this, because that's one of the things that I find really rewarding about what we do, is that the more that you uncover, there's really just nonstop, just no end to the fascinating details in the history and just, the amazing people behind what make these magical moments and magical memories for us and our families as fans. So it's something that the stories that I love to tell, I know it's the stories that you love to tell. And so, it's just really fun and really a big blessing that we get to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's geek out about this, because
yes.
we were talking a little bit before we started recording that it's been 8 years since I've been to Disneyland Paris, and you shared that this was your first trip to Disneyland Paris. Was it your first trip to Paris at all?
Yes, first trip to Europe. First time crossing the Atlantic. And it was one of those things in my first international park. I've been to Disney World, obviously, like my whole life. And then I lived out in Anaheim in California for 15 years. I lived in LA, but near Anaheim. And so I know those two parks like the back of my hand. I love them. But always like Paris was one of those things where it's like, okay, that's probably going to be the most doable international. That would be like the first park that I go do. But it was always like on the horizon. I was like, maybe next year. And then I got this incredible opportunity, got invited to go see Disney Adventure World and the World of Frozen about 2 weeks early before it opens to the public. And so we're talking on Thursday. This happened last Saturday. So it's all very fresh. I'm all very jet lagged. But yes, this was my first time going to Disneyland Paris, this is like an incredible entry point into seeing that resort.
Yeah. Well, I jumped right into this. I forgot to ask rapid fire questions, but I'm going to keep this all focused on Paris then, and we'll roll with the theme for this. So where did you stay when you were there?
I stayed at the Moxie in Val d'Europe, which is just one train stop away from Disneyland Paris. And, this was a very last minute trip that happened. So I was looking to save money, and this was like, I'm all about that Bonvoy life. And so I was like, okay, I can earn some points with this. And it was a little over like €100 a night, which, it was like $120 a night, which was a steal. And for, I was going by myself. And so it had this like hip vibe and like very minimal type of accommodations, but it's one train stop away. And so literally there was one point I was in Adventureland and I was like, I need to get something back at my hotel. And I was back in the hotel within 25 minutes. Because I just like with the train, I just hopped on the train. It was right there and got back to my hotel room. And like that kind of blew my mind for such an affordable hotel.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're speaking the same language. We talked about flying Delta before, Marriott
Yes.
Bonvoy, Disney fan. We're on the same team here. Outside of, I just wanted to ask, that was my first rapid fire question. We'll focus on Paris, but I want to ask a couple of other questions. So from the attractions you've been on, I know you said you've mostly been to the domestic parks, but now even thinking about Paris, what's your favorite Disney attraction?
Oh, that's a very good question. My answer has always been Haunted Mansion, but then I went on Phantom Manor, and I think it might be my favorite version of Haunted Mansion, because it's wild. The last scene in it, my jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
Like I had not watched a ride through. I'd heard things. I'd heard like, oh, it's darker, it's scarier. Like, and so the whole first, like you hear Vincent Price instead of the ghost host and like all that stuff. I was like, oh, this is really interesting and like kind of like expands the Haunted Mansion universe in really weird, interesting ways. But that last scene, and I'm not even going to spoil it for anyone in case they haven't been there yet, but I could not believe what I was seeing. And I went on it twice while I was there, and I was really tempted to go on a third time. It had no wait, but the fireworks were about to happen. I'd never seen that before, so I was like, it's cutting a little too close. But I loved Phantom Manor, so that might be it's definitely recency bias, but that's my pick right now.
Yeah, it happens a lot. I will admit the one time, again, that I went to Disneyland Paris, Phantom Manor was undergoing a massive refurbishment. So I unfortunately did not get to experience it, but I am just another reason to go back and experience it. All right, so last question. A very difficult one, much like favorite attraction, but like what's your go-to Disney park snack?
Oh, that's actually very easy for me. It's a Disneyland churro.
Those are the best.
Very specifically
Disneyland. Yes.
Yeah.
People who have not been to Disneyland don't get it. It's like because I have most of my listeners have only been to Walt Disney World, and I've been nudging, and I've seen a lot of listeners starting to go to Disneyland and saying, you know what, I get it. Like I understand now why I needed to go to Disneyland, and one of those reasons is the churros. They are better at Disneyland than they are.
They're better. I don't know why, but they just are, and they're everywhere.
It could be the dry air in California. It doesn't get as the humidity doesn't really kick into the moisture in the churro. Like I don't know what it is, but it just tastes better.
Yeah, something in the water. I don't know.
Something in the water. Yeah,
it's great. I'll just say for Disney World fans out there, lately I've been really into the coconut Dole Whip at Aloha Isle. That's I'm a huge fan of Dole Whip, but that's been like I think around the 50th anniversary they had that as like a special edition thing, but you can order it off menu, just get it plain without like the whole swirl and everything or the float, and I just think that's delightful, very refreshing on those hot Orlando afternoons.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about World of Frozen. I can't wait to experience this. You're a dad as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I have 2 young daughters, and I can't wait to see World of Frozen with them. Like as a dad stepping into the world of Frozen, or just as a Disney fan stepping into the world of Frozen the first time, what were your thoughts as you headed over into Arendelle?
Yeah, so it was a very cool experience because you walk into Adventure Way, which is like the kind of like now the main central hub of Disney Adventure World, and it feels very different than the Walt Disney Studios. It has like World Showcase vibes. There's this big lagoon, it goes all around, and they do something there that Imagineering hasn't really done in domestic parks in a really long time, which is you can see the silhouette of Arendelle from across the park, and it feels very much like a World Showcase pavilion where you think of Galaxy's Edge or you think of Pandora. They have these big reveal moments once you're deep inside the land, but they're kind of hidden hidden from the rest of the park. This is saying like it's a weenie. You're across the way and it's saying, come here, you have to see this. And it feels big and impressive. And just seeing the North Mountain with the Ice Palace, seeing the castle, it's just like the first thing that struck me about the land, even from far away, is it is beautiful. Disneyland Paris has this like beauty as defining quality that Tony Baxter likes to talk about. And I think the world of Frozen really like fits into that because it is just all the theming, all the detail. It is just a beautiful land to walk around.
I can't wait to see it. We've got to talk about the specifics of Arendelle, but I love the throwback to classic weenies at Disney parks and captivating you and wanting you to, like you said, sort of like beckoning you over to say, come here. But then also it's always hard to tell unless you go in person, but I'm really getting the impression from the photos and the videos that I'm seeing that there is a very high degree of craftsmanship and detail and Easter eggs and like lots and lots of little details that make it feel very close to the film. When you were up close, did it have that? Like, what was your impression on the level of detail that you saw there?
Oh yeah, I think that it's not to take it for granted, but it's kind of a given with Imagineering, with the level of detail. One of my favorite things that I saw was like there's a like Arendelle print, like the press, the newspaper shop is one of the buildings there, and then they have like this kind of notice board with all the recent stories, and there's lots of fun Easter eggs in there. There's the bathroom signs are very themed too, and just like the Anna and Elsa meet and greet experience, they have all the paintings from that you see from For the First Time in Forever, and like they're just all those different things. You definitely feel immersed in this land, and I think in terms of scope, it isn't on as huge as like a Galaxy's Edge or Pandora. It does feel like my comp is like it's a plussed up World Showcase pavilion, because it's just you walk down this corridor and then you have the attraction, you have the shop, you have the dining, and it's all right there in the kind of this central pavilion. But it's just like it definitely feels like a place you want to hang out in, a place you want to just be in. It has this great bridge that has a view over. It has this kind of little inlet that they call the fjord. It's like Arendelle Bay. It's not part of the big lagoon that's like the center of the park. It's this little inlet, and you can see the castle, you can see the Ice Palace. It just at golden hour and at sunset, it is beautiful. And that is like the stage for the main show for the land, which is a celebration in Arendelle, which has these 3 boats. And we can definitely get into way more detail about that. But that is like one of the things that I enjoyed most about that, was just like looking over that view, because it is like one of the most beautiful views that I've seen in a Disney park.
I love that. Before we get to the attraction too, and then the shows and everything else, you mentioned food. Did you get to sample any of the food in World of Frozen, or
yes?
How was it true? Available?
Yes. So there's one restaurant in World of Frozen, the Nordic Crowns Tavern. I think it's Tavern. It's Northern Crowns something. My mind is filled with so many proper nouns after this weekend. But the Nordic Crowns, it's a quick service restaurant. It was I had like salmon and potatoes, which like it was just very much like it didn't really strike me either way. It was like fine with a capital F. That was like my takeaway from that meal. But there was a dessert that was like this blue ice cream that was very citrusy, and in a waffle bowl, and that was actually fantastic. That's one of the best things that I ate while I was in France, which is kind of shocking. So that was, I think, in terms of specific World of Frozen food, that was the only food that was there. They also have all along Adventure Bay, they have kind of kiosk style food booths, and there's a a big princess dining restaurant. There's a lounge that I got to have a cocktail at that was excellent, called the Regal View Lounge, which is like the first lounge space in Disneyland Paris in one of the parks. So, and that just had like this upscale, refined feeling. So I think like in terms of like the food, you're going to have more action all along Adventure Bay.
That's incredible. Did you get to ride Frozen Ever After?
Oh, yeah. So I just kind of going into this, I wasn't that excited to go on Frozen Ever After because I've been on it in Epcot like 100,000 times. So it was just like this, and that's a ride that I do really like, but it's not a ride that I love. It's not a ride like Haunted Mansion that we just talked about, where it's like, okay, I have to go on this every single time that I go into the parks. It's a ride that's like, okay, if we have a lightning lane or if my kids really want to go, like we'll go on it. But otherwise, it's like, okay, yeah, I like it. And so I was expecting that ride again, but plussed up in certain ways. And in a very just like objective sense, yes, it has the same scenes, it has the same beats, but because they're not doing a retrofit from Maelstrom and they are building a ride from the ground up and they're building it 10 years later, it's a new ride system, like a new boat ride system versus the Maelstrom from the 80s. It just feels like a completely fresh, completely brand new attraction. And I know a lot of people said that from the Hong Kong version of this ride and of World of Frozen. And I had heard that. And so like, even with that in mind, having that as the expectation, it still blew me away how big a difference all these things, all these changes make, because the scenes feel bigger, they feel brighter. Everything just feels fresher. The effects feel fresher. It just like, it's all these things where it's like all these scenes are anywhere from like 10 to 50% better. And then the overall effect is just like, oh, this feels like a new attraction. And kind of where I put it is like, it gives it a grade letter bump up. So if Frozen Ever After in Epcot is a B, this would go up to an A. Like all of those things add up. And I was going into it expecting like, okay, I'll go on it and, just be able to talk about it. And I went off going, I can't wait to go on this again. And it was like a very packed preview day. And like, I was like running in between stuff and I was like, I got to make it time to go on that ride one more time because it was just that good. And even the drop feels like quicker and swifter. I really cannot say too many good things about what they did with this. So if you're going into this just thinking like, oh, I've been on that ride at Epcot, it's the same ride. They're just putting a 10-year-old ride here. It's not quite like that. It is similar to it. Like, there are differences between Pirates of the Caribbean and Anaheim and Orlando. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, there is a significant difference between these versions of the ride.
Amazing. I can see that being the case, and I've heard that about the Hong Kong version too, and I've now been hearing that from the people who have experienced the Paris version, that it's not just a copy paste of the Epcot version. It's certainly a modernized version of Frozen Ever After. So I again, absolutely just another reason to go and visit. One of the, I'm going to attempt a segue here. So one of the features of Frozen Ever After is, of course, animatronics, and one of those animatronics is Olaf, who, by the way, Olaf and the other animatronics in the attraction also look fantastic just from the footage I've seen. But Olaf has taken completely different form in the form of a walking snowman in Arendelle. And, I've seen some up close video footage. I've had the chance, like you did, to chat with Moritz about his work and his team's work in developing in just a few months' time, which is incredible. This nearly autonomous, nearly fully autonomous robotic character. Hearing about what it took, the mechanics involved, the AI software and hardware that's involved, the learning Olaf had to go through, and how much of a quantum leap this feels, even beyond the BDX droids that we've seen. And so all that to say, like, you had the chance to actually see Olaf up close. So how awestruck were you to see that? Or, like, Did you have this moment of like, how much of a was that line of reality blurred? Like, did it really seem like that was Olaf walking around Arendelle?
Matthew, that is the right question, because that was definitely the thing I was most excited to see, because I've been very interested. You and I are both very much into Imagineering and the tech of all this. And, I've been reading Disney's research papers and making content around Olaf and trying to explain how he works. And so I've been looking at the mechanics of like how this works and seeing him both in the show, which is on the bay, and he's on the boat, and so from far away, but also seeing him up close. It's one of the coolest things I've seen in a theme park, because the technology just melts away and it's just the character there. And they did such an amazing job. They Imagineering collaborated with animators who worked on the Frozen films, and they made reference animations for this Olaf robotic character and used deep reinforcement learning AI to train against these animations that were handcrafted by these master Disney animators, so that when he's walking around, when he's looking around, when he does a little shuffle, it just looks like Olaf. It is true to the character, and it's just something that takes you back, because yes, the BD droids are great. I really love those droids and love the show that they do. And Herbie is awesome, but those look like robots. This looks like an animated character walked out of the film, and it is just incredible. And seeing him up close was just like, it's one of the first things that happened while I was in the land. It was like somebody was like, "Hey, Olaf's about to be coming out here," and like kind of got the inside scoop. And I was like, "Okay," and then just was there, and he was like about like 2 to 3 feet away from me, and I was just like, I couldn't believe that it was happening. It was kind of this thing. I'm looking back on the footage that I have of it, and I'm just like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe I was there and saw that, because it is so cool. And the thing that, like, talking with Moritz about like what they're doing and how they're able to make these characters so much faster thanks to things like deep reinforcement learning and the simulations that they do. And like, it's very clear that it's like Olaf isn't a one-off. This is the direction that things are going, and that they didn't talk in any specifics, but they're just like they're working on more characters like this. Like they are going to be doing this more and more, and which is such a cool thing. And I was just blown away by Olaf.
Yeah, and I think it was your video that I saw where you even talked about the Celebration in Arendelle show.
Yes.
And the fact that he's essentially like on a moving boat.
Yes.
And still balancing and able to take all of that reinforcement learning and, to not just be on solid ground, but be on an actual like moving boat and still walk around. And it's just incredible.
It's funny. I've been getting a lot of comments from people saying like, "Oh, well, it must be on rails, or there must be magnets, or I think I see a stick like holding him up and
it's
stuff."
A puppet.
And it's a puppet. And so that was the thing that was, I saw that show and I knew I was going to be able to talk to Moritz later about it, and I was just like, okay, how'd you get him to be able to perform on a boat? Because the boat is moving in the water. You can see it rocking. And these boats, there are 3 of them. They kind of do this choreographed dance where they will rotate, and they rotate swiftly. They move positions throughout the bay. And Olaf is just there, and he will take a few steps forward. He'll turn around. He does his whole thing. He does his whole choreography. I believe it's like he's voiced by Josh Gad, like it's original lines, original songs for this show, and he just looks like he does in the movies, which is incredible. But he's on this boat and he's balancing, he's not falling over and all this. And so I asked Moritz, and it was just like, in the simulation they account for extremes, so they put extreme forces in the digital world through their physics simulations, and so I asked him, like, were you nervous if he's going to be on this boat, your most like advanced robotic figure ever, putting him on a boat, then is he going to fall in the water or whatever? And he's like, no, not nervous at all. They do, basically Olaf had a decade's worth of experience before he stepped on that boat, being able to, adjust for if there's swaying or if there's wind and the boat's moving a bit. And that is just one of those really incredible things where it's like the technology is allowing them to put these animatronics and robotic characters in places that we never would see them before. Like the BD droids have appeared on Disney Cruise Line, which that's not a place where you think of, oh, I'm going to go see a robotic character there. I'm going to see an animatronic at sea. And it's so cool that this really does open up possibilities that weren't there before.
Incredible. I only can imagine where they can go from here. I guess too, just if we were to put on our Imagineering caps, which I'm sure you've already thought about this, but I'm not going to ask. I'm going to save the low hanging fruit question for the second question. Okay. The first question I have is, what do you think is the next step beyond this? Like, I've been envisioning that these characters, yes, they could roam around the parks and interact, but that this could also create a deeper level of immersion on attractions where they have timed environments. And maybe the application of that is too simple. Maybe they, because it's just, animatronics are going to be repeating themselves and, for every 6 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever the case might be for the efficiency for that attraction. And the applications for something like this are far broader. But, what, if you were in Walt Disney Imagineering on the research team, what would you do with this tech next?
That is such a great question. And I do think there could be like a cool way to put them into attractions, similar in the same way of with the trackless rides, how they're able to sometimes use another trackless vehicle to create these show elements, and maybe do it in a way that it's it definitely is a surprise moment that a character would be there, and they're able to put it in a way that there doesn't need to be a backdrop behind the character or whatever. That could be a really cool thing. I think that it's just this limitless possibility now, having seen, because thinking of the free roaming characters, I would never have thought put them on a boat and have it on a boat show, and they put the character on a boat and have it be part of the show, and it really does enhance the show and makes it feel like, okay, this is really the character there. And they're doing things by, they can have these robots moonwalk, and they can have them break dance and do all these things. If you've seen the We Call It Imagineering research and development episode, they show that. And so I'm very interested in there are rumors of a Hades dinner show for Villain's Land. And so what if Pain and Panic are going around the room and they're free roaming and walk up to your table? Things like that. I think that there could be ways that it isn't just roaming the land, but could be things that would enhance both entertainment and dining. And I think that really it's just I say just bring them everywhere. Bring them to my house.
Yeah. I there's obviously so many different applications for this, and the rate of technology is moving faster than ever. So I imagine that certainly by the time Villain's Land comes out, we can have, we're going to be looking at even more implications and applications for this technology. The low hanging fruit question I was going to ask you, which is I'm sure the number one question. I've even asked this question of my listeners before, but if they've built Olaf now, what would be the next character you would want to see beyond Olaf?
That's a great question. My heart says an Ewok. Have Ewoks going around Galaxy's Edge. I think that would be adorable and just be super fun. I also think Mickey Mouse would just be it would be interesting. It would be one of those challenging things of okay, they already have the Mickey costume characters, so where do you deploy it? How would that work? But I think having a Mickey Mouse on that scale would be a really interesting thing, because we really when you associate Mickey with being in the parks, it's a costume character. And outside of Runaway Railway, you don't really see Mickey Mouse on like a Mickey scale of like what Mickey would be. And so I think that would be really cool to see, like, what would a walk around Mickey Mouse animatronic be?
Yeah, that would be awesome. I am trying to tie possibilities to future projects, and I've been running through my head what they might do. Villain's Land is a great one. I think they could probably incorporate some character into Villain's Land. I'm wondering if there's two things that are on the radar in a not so distant future, although I don't think they have the opening dates yet. But the first is the Spider-Man coaster that's coming to Shanghai Disneyland, and then the other one is, these are both Marvel related, the expansion of Avengers Campus. So one thing that popped in my head right away was humanoid figure Spider-Man at the Spider-Man attraction, and not to be incorporated into the ride itself, but a similar thing, like an exploration of what a humanoid, nearly autonomous robotic walk around character might be. The other one, but you can also have when you go meet Spider-Man at Avengers Campus, it's even more realistic, right? Like, what's more realistic than a humanoid? It's a human, right? So like, there's obviously some things that perhaps a robotic character could do that a human couldn't do. But I obviously think that when you're meeting Spider-Man, it's great to meet a human Spider-Man. But the other application is some character that obviously a human cannot easily recreate at that realistic level, like Olaf. At that, it's not easy for a human to pretend to be Olaf as a walk around character. But imagine on the opposite side, if you had a walk around King Thanos for the Avengers e-ticket attraction, that would be terrifying and intimidating. I don't know if I'd want that, really. People are like, why are you planting this bug in Imagineering's ear to build a giant King Thanos robot walk around character? But I can foresee this going so many different directions. The really easy one that also I've been reading in comments a lot is Baymax.
And that would be
put
great.
That in San Francisco or something. I'd welcome that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That would be very cool. It is. I'm interested to see where they go with the scale of it, because the scale has all been, I think Olaf's like a little under 3 feet. So the BD droids are pretty short, but I don't think that there's any thing limiting them in terms of scaling this up in the future. I do think another technology that's interesting for King Thanos is the exoframe, which is the exoskeleton, larger than life characters. They just had the Titans at the on the Disney Destiny, the Hercules show. I got to see those up close, and they're like 10 feet tall and amazing. And so I think that in getting into people see this and they're like, oh, it's made with AI. Robots are going to replace us, blah, blah, blah. I still think that human-driven characters are going to be very much a thing. I think that this is going to just be another way to augment it, to supplement it, and find the ways of, like you said, of okay, what are the things that it doesn't make sense for a human to be portraying, and take these different technologies and have the characters come alive in those ways. I think that we're going to see characters come alive in ways that we just have never seen before. And it's, getting back to what we talked about with Olaf took months, and I think Herbie took 90 days. They are getting faster with this. And part of the reason is the reinforcement learning and the AI tools that they're able to use help do the simulation so that they don't need to have perfect machinery in order for these to work. And so they're able to get these things up and running in a much shorter time. And that I think is the biggest implication thing of okay, that's what makes all of what we're speculating about possible, is that they have gotten so good at this and they are innovating at such a quick pace that I think it's a really exciting time if you are a fan of seeing characters in the parks.
Yeah, it's certainly an exciting time. I'm just thinking about my daughters and how this is the Disney park experience they're going to be growing up with. All this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The advancements in technology. Just to think about, like, I just imagine how awestruck Walt would be seeing this.
Oh
and
my
thinking,
gosh, yeah.
How far has storytelling come, right? Like, it's it's absolutely incredible to see all this research and development and how Disney is using AI for something like this. So to wrap up, I suppose, I want to make sure that there's nothing we left out. So a couple of final questions here. First, is there anything else that you experienced at World of Frozen that we didn't discuss that you think is worth mentioning?
I do want to just say, like, beyond the Olaf animatronic, the Celebration in Arendelle show is delightful. That was like, I had very neutral expectations. Like, I just saw like the concept art and it's like, oh, it's a show on some boats. And the show is like surprisingly big in scale. There's fountains, there's pyrotechnics. There are some moments that genuinely made me laugh. And like, it's just like this nice, fun, sweet, like feels like a warm hug type of show. I ended up seeing it 3 times that day, maybe because of Olaf, but also it wasn't like this thing of like, oh, I got to see the show because of the robot. It was this, I was genuinely delighted by the show. And I do think that try to see it if you're going there, try to see it at dusk or after dark because it has a great lighting package. So in terms of World of Frozen, I think like that was like, that and Frozen Ever After were like the 2 like big surprise hits for me of like, okay, this is great. Oh, they also have great walk around characters. They have Mossy, who's like this troll puppet who talks and is interactive, and it's really fun. I think Mossy is going to be like a breakout star of this land. And then there's Oaken, who will go yoo-hoo with you, which I did many times. And so that was I really hope Disney really leans into having more characters going throughout this land, because that really does make the land feel alive. And it is such a beautiful stage that they set in Arendelle, and like the rock work and the force perspective, all of the detail is there that really makes this feel like a idyllic place to just hang out and have an afternoon in. And, kind of my whole cohesive theory about Disney Adventure World is kind of like the Adventure Bay is World Showcase Lagoon, but for fictional worlds. They're going to have Lion King it's under construction now. I don't know if that has an opening date, but that's coming on the horizon. And then this is just like, it just is like this very cool place to like, it definitely feels like, okay, you're stepping into a little taste of Arendelle, and has that like World Showcase Pavilion type of feel, which to me is like such a great feeling. So I was really, really taken aback by World of Frozen. I was really impressed, and I just thought it was a beautiful land.
I can't wait to see it. Now that you've also been to, I know this was a different kind of trip, and like you said, a bit last minute, but now that you've now been to the Disneyland Paris resort, and prior to this, like you said, this was your first international parks. You've only been to Walt Disney World and to Disneyland. So what were your broad stroke takeaways for Disneyland Paris?
I loved it. I love Disneyland Paris Park. I thought that it was just, it is beautiful and so different in so many ways. And just in terms of like, I went on a bunch of rides, but I spent most of the day just wandering around and just soaking in the details. And it does so much of what I think is one of the most fun things that themed entertainment can do, which is give you a sense of exploration, give you a sense of surprise. And there are surprises around every corner, especially if you're very familiar with the U.S. Disney parks. And I think that there's an argument to be made that I think it has the best Frontierland that I've experienced, and the best Adventureland, like by far. And I think you could make an argument that Fantasyland and then Discoveryland, which is their version of Tomorrowland, are also the best iterations of that compared to the U.S. parks. I haven't been to the parks in Asia, so I can't really speak on those, but I was really blown away by that. And then also I think like Big Thunder and then Phantom Manor, as we talked about, and even Pirates, there's a good argument that might be the best Pirates too. Like all of those I was just genuinely blown away by. So I think like Disneyland Paris is such a great park, and it's kind of like this thing of like, if you're going all the way to France, and Paris is an amazing city. I had about a day in Paris, and that is such a great city to explore. I went to Notre Dame. It was just like this incredible experience. And then I went to Disneyland Paris. And then I think with Disney Adventure World, it's now this great complement to Disneyland Paris, where it gives a different feeling. Especially like Adventure Bay and Adventure Way, it gives a good complement that feels like the sister park to Disneyland Paris in a way that the original part of Walt Disney Studios, the current part, the park that's open, doesn't really feel like it is a complement as much. So I think that it's like there's enough there with World of Frozen, with the new nighttime show, with Adventure Bay and all of that, that it's like, okay, if you're going to Europe and you're going to go to Paris and then go to Disneyland Paris, take an extra day and take the time to go to Adventure World, because it has these offerings that are unique to there versus, you could go to World of Frozen in Hong Kong, but that's, across the world. Yeah. And even as an American who's been on Frozen Ever After and in Epcot, there's a lot more there to experience for Frozen fans, and especially like a dad to a young daughter who is singing "Let It Go" all the time. This is like a very recent development, and she saw some of the videos I was working on. She went, "Oh, that's Olaf," and like very excited. And so like that, I think it's going to be a huge hit with families with young kids.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll second what you said about Paris. We spent several days in Paris, and we both left saying, yeah, we need to come back to this city. It's one of the best cities in the world. And
amazing.
Disneyland Paris, that's what happens when you have Tony Baxter taking a look at Disneyland and what can we do differently with a European French Disney park, a French Disneyland. Are you planning to go back anytime soon?
No plans right now. Just because, I got in like midnight the day before yesterday. So I'm still like recovering and still like, okay, I'm happy to not have any 10-hour flights on the horizon, but I definitely would love to go back. I'd love to take my family back there because, this was just because it was so last minute. It was was doing work there. It was a solo trip, but I do think like, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I got a day in Paris. I got a day at Disneyland Paris. I got a day at Disney Adventure World. I got a taste of everything. And it was just like everything that I did, I really loved, and was like, I left there being like, if I never get to go back, I feel so grateful for this experience, so grateful for this adventure, because it was such a special experience. But I do hope that I get to go back there one day, because I need to go on Phantom Manor again. Like, I'm obsessed.
I'm so glad to hear. Yeah, I don't blame you getting back not that long ago for not having an official trip on the horizon, but definitely something that we'll both have to plan and get back to sometime very soon. James, I want to make sure people know where to go to follow you. I obviously talked briefly about your account in the beginning, but I bet you could do a better job of pointing people in the right direction. So where can people go to discover your content and engage with you online?
Yes. So everything is Guide to WDW. So that's Guide number 2 WDW. It was made as a website when everything was just read and you don't have to say it out loud. And then on Instagram, I'm Guide to Disney. And so I just published earlier today a 16-minute long video recounting my preview experience at Disney Adventure World and World of Frozen, and talking a lot about my thoughts about everything we talked about, and also the new Rapunzel ride and the Cascade of Lights and all of that. So that's on YouTube, Guide to WDW, and then I'm also I do pretty much daily videos on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, diving into the news, diving behind the scenes. I call it Disney intelligence for smarter vacations, so that people can like go and either have a better time on their first trip or deepen their fandom and notice things that they never noticed before. So I'm doing that every day. So yeah, just more video, and I have so many more videos to share from Disneyland Paris, and there's so much happening at Disney World and Disneyland. So it's a really fun time.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, I can't wait to see what else you have in store and keep up, like I said, the great work with everything you've been doing. But I appreciate you coming onto the show, sharing your thoughts, sharing your experience, and hopefully we'll get the chance to meet up at the parks again sometime soon.
Yes, that would be great.
Welcome back to Imagination Central. Before you exit this episode, remember to follow Imagination Skyway on social media and share the show with anyone who might enjoy listening to our program. For ad-free episodes and bonus content, create a free account or sign up for a premium subscription at patreon.com/Imagination Skyway. When you're ready for your next vacation, remember that listeners of Imagination Skyway can get rewarded for booking a trip to Disney in 2026 through KMV Travel, voted the top travel agency in Orlando in 2025. Simply fill out the form at kmvtravel.com/Skyway and make sure that you select Imagination Skyway under the How Did You Hear About Us question to be eligible for a special gift from the team. Terms and conditions apply. As you disembark, please remember to remain fully seated until the podcast comes to a complete stop. Then gather your belongings and watch your head and step as you exit. Thank you for joining me aboard Imagination Skyway, and remember, if we can dream it, we can do it.